you sound clear, and am I sounding clear? We good? We're good to go.
Yes, Maharaj, it's good. It's clear.
Hare Krishna to all the devotees. So we're going to read from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and today happens to be the disappearance day of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Madhavendra Puri. So I'll say the invocation for the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So I'm going to read from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is the Antya Leela, chapter 8, entitled Ramachandra Puri Criticizes the Lord. So I'm going to read from text number 20 for a few verses thereafter. Text 28. Ishvara Puri Gosani Kare Shripad Sevana Swahaste Karena Mala Mutradi Marjana. And the translations by Srila Prabhupada. This one. Ishvara Puri, the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, performed service to Madhavendra Puri, cleaning up his stool and urine with his own hand. Text 29. Nirantara Krishna Nama Karaya Smarana Krishna Nama Krishna Leela Sunaya Anukshana. The translation. Ishvara Puri was always chanting the holy name and the pastimes of Lord Krishna for Madhavendra Puri to hear. In this way, he helped Madhavendra Puri remember the holy name and the pastimes of Lord Krishna at the time of death. Text 30. Tustahana Puri Tanre Kaila Alingana Varadila Krishna Tomara Ahuka Premadana. And the translation. Pleased with Ishvara Puri, Madhavendra Puri embraced him and gave him the benediction that he would be a great devotee and lover of Krishna. Text 31. Sehi Haite Ishvara Puri Premera Sagara Ramachandra Puri Haila Sarvanindakara. Thus Ishvara Puri became like an ocean of ecstatic love for Krishna, whereas Ramachandra Puri became a dry speculator and a critic of everyone else. Text 32. Mahad Anugraha Nigrahera Shakshi Doijane Ehi Doi Dwara Sikhaila Jagajane. Translation. Ishvara Puri received the blessing of Madhavendra Puri, whereas Ramachandra Puri received a rebuke from him. Therefore, these two persons, Ishvara Puri and Ramachandra Puri, are examples of the objects of a great personality, benediction and punishment. Madhavendra Puri instructed the entire world by presenting these two examples.
Text 33. Jagat Guru Madhavendra Kari Premadana Ehi Sloka Paditenho Kaila Antardana. His Divine Grace Madhavendra Puri, the spiritual master of the entire world, thus distributed ecstatic love for Krishna. While passing away from this material world, he chanted the following verse. Text 34. Aidina Dayadranatha he Maturanatha Kada Valoksyase Hridayam Tvad Alokakataram Dahita Briram Yati Kim Karomyaham. Translation. Quote, O my Lord, O most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become agitated. O most beloved one, what shall I do now? Unquote. Text 35. He sloke Krishna prema kare upadesha Krishnera virahe bhaktera bhava vishesha. In this verse, Madhavendra Puri teaches how to achieve ecstatic love for Krishna. By feeling separation from Krishna, one becomes spiritually situated. Text number 36. Prithiviti ropana gela premankura sehi premankurera vriksha chaitanya takura. Translation. Madhavendra Puri sowed the seed of ecstatic love for Krishna within this material world and then departed. That seed later became a great tree in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In text 37, I think somebody is coughing or something. Maybe they have some cold. Okay, text 37. Prastave kahilun puri gosan nira niryana yehi hiya sunesahi bada bhagyavan. Translation. I have incidentally described the passing who, yes, this must be considered very fortunate. Mama jnana atimirandasya gyananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha Shri Chaitanya manobishtam स्थापितं जनभूतले स्वयं रूपा कदामायं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं पञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we have gathered today on the most auspicious anniversary disappearance day of Srila Prabhupada. And we just read several verses that culminated in the passing away of Shripad Madhavendra Puri. Now, this was quite similar in relation to Srila Prabhupada prior to him manifesting his pastimes here with us in this world. In the last days, in October, November of 1975 in Vrindavan, um, Srila Prabhupada, in following his decision to stay, eventually turned himself over to his disciples and he sort of allowed them to completely take care of him. So those who were there at that time, they had recalled that never before had Srila Prabhupada allowed such intimate dealings between himself and his disciples. Am I on the screen or there's somebody else on the screen for now?
No,
Haribol?
Maharaj, you are on the screen.
Okay, fine. So at one point, the senior most disciple at that time, Ketananda Swami, he sort of, gently but firmly insisted that Srila Prabhupada should drink a cup of juice, even when Srila Prabhupada said that, he had enough. So Ketananda Swami was quite awkward. He was representing the other devotees, but he felt quite awkward. And he sort of indicated that he was not like Mother Yasoda and he cannot really do this by forcing Srila Prabhupada, just as Mother Yasoda can force Krishna as a mother. Because Ketananda Swami at that time was always remembering, well, Prabhupada is my spiritual master, so how can I force him and tell him what to do? However, Srila Prabhupada allowed himself to be sort of ordered around by his disciples in those last days. And similarly, other devotees like Bhavananda Swami at that time, Ramakrishna Goswami, Bhakti Charu Swami, Upendra Prabhu, and others, they actually sort of gently coaxed Srila Prabhupada to follow certain diets and they cared for his body constantly. In other words, um, they could do whatever they can to actually, you know, take care of Srila Prabhupada. And eventually the other devotees were also feeling that they were reminded of a similar situation with Srila Ishvara Puri, who we read here, who gave very intimate bodily service practically to his spiritual master, Srila Madhavendra Puri, practically changing him in bed and so forth. So this is the same way, just as Srila Prabhupada was apparently invalid, and Madhavendra Puri was also apparently invalid and just lying down. Similarly, in the last stages of Madhavendra Puri's life, as well as Srila Prabhupada, you know, the disciples, and specifically for Madhavendra Puri, was Ishvara Puri who took care of his every menial bodily service need. So this shows that Ishvara Puri didn't need to prove, but he actually proved from an external point of view, from our perspective, how much love he had for his spiritual master, Srila Madhavendra Puri. And and because of that service to Srila Madhavendra Puri in his last stages of his life, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu allowed himself to become a disciple of Sripad Madhavendra Puri, Sripad Ishvara Puri rather, which makes Madhavendra Puri as a guru. So similarly, Srila Prabhupada, he he gave us also lessons in sort of how to live this world in the favor of offering his disciples, like unparalleled, never to be repeated again opportunities to serve him in a pure and simple way, pure and simple, menial and humble service. And he did not only allow this for a few devotees, who was like close to Srila Prabhupada at that time. But Srila Prabhupada sort of allowed this to anyone and everyone who came to Vrindavan in those last months in October, November 1975. Many came, and practically all of them were allowed to enter Srila Prabhupada's room, massage Srila Prabhupada's body, sit with Srila Prabhupada as long as they like, whether it's day and night, and also chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, for Srila Prabhupada's transcendental pleasure. So there's a great similarity in Srila Prabhupada when he was living as and in relation to when Sripad Madhavendra Puri was also living as. Now, at the last stages of Srila Madhavendra Puri's life, when he became completely invalid, cannot move, um, Sripad Ishvara Puri, his principal disciple, and incidentally, Sripad Madhavendra Puri had two principal disciples, Srila Ishvara Puri and Srila Advaita Acharya was also a disciple of Sripad Madhavendra Puri. But here we focused on Srila Ishvara Puri, and these verses are telling us that he completely engaged himself in the service of Sripad Madhavendra Puri, and personally practically cleaned up when he was passing stool and urine, and bathing him and dressing him and so forth. And as a result of this, um, Srila Madhavendra Puri blessed Srila Ishvara Puri to always be attached to chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and to always be attached to discussing the pastimes of Lord Krishna. So this is the best, you could say, benediction or blessing one can receive from one's spiritual master.
Hare Krishna.
And therefore, he mentioned like that. I think somebody has to unmute. I can hear them chanting or doing something else, maybe japa. So therefore, he blessed it and he said, "My dear boy, I can only pray to Krishna that he will be pleased with you." And therefore, Srila Ishvara Puri, by the grace of his spiritual master, Sripad Madhavendra Puri, became a great devotee, one of the greatest devotees, practically swimming in the ocean of love for Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada used to quote Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And Srila Prabhupada used to say that we, in the morning sing those prayers. Yasya prasadat Bhagavat prasado, Yasya prasadan nagati kutopi, dayam stuvam stasyas srisadyam, mande guru shri charanarvindam. So this indicates simply that by the mercy of the spiritual master, one is blessed by the mercy of Krishna. And without the mercy of the spiritual master, one really, cannot make any advancement or spiritual advancement in Krishna consciousness. So I just thought I'll mention one particular pastime in relation to Srila Madhavendra Puri. And Srila Prabhupada sort of says that, even God steals for his devotee in such a wonderful way. So Srila Prabhupada used to say that Lord Chaitanya relished that Krishna is sometimes so kind that Krishna steals for his own devotee. So this is the significance. Now some of you may have been to this place. It's between Calcutta and Jagannath Puri. There's a place called Ramuna. Beautiful place. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited many important places on the way to Jagannath Puri. And one of the places he came to was in Ramuna. And there is, in that temple, the deity's name is Gopinathji. And this deity is famous for having stolen condensed milk for his dear devotee, Sripad uh, Madhavendra Puri. And then since then, that deity, Gopinath, became known because of the love of Sripad Madhavendra Puri, became known as Shirachor Gopinath. Shira means sweet rice or milk products. Chor means thief. And Gopinath, Shirachor Gopinath. Yes. I believe, incidentally, also, um, when Srila Prabhupada initiated uh, Sripad Bhakti Swami Maharaj, I think the first initiation name was this name, Shirachor Gopinath Das. So it's a very beautiful name where Krishna steals for his devotee. Practically, Krishna steals his own Mahaprasad to offer to his devotee. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to relish this pastime with great pleasure, that the propensity of stealing is even there in the absolute consciousness of the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord. Whereas that stealing loses its nature due to the perversion in the material world. So Srila Prabhupada beautifully describes this in one lecture, actually, in November 16, 1971, in Delhi, very beautifully. And Prabhupada just said that the point is that Srila Madhavendra Puri, when he got that pot of condensed milk, Shira, therefore Shira Chor Gopinath, and when the priest glorified him, oh, you are such a great devotee that even Krishna personally steals for you this condensed milk. So you please take it. That was the pujari who Krishna appeared to in the dream to say to give the condensed milk to Sripad Madhavendra Puri. And as a result, that pujari, he bowed down before Sripad Madhavendra Puri and took the dust of his lotus feet and put on his head. Then Madhavendra Puri, in his deep humility, thought, oh, now I've got this pot of condensed milk, and then next morning it will be advertised, and people will come in thousands of numbers to congratulate me. Better I leave this place immediately. So that means, as Srila Prabhupada said, he didn't want himself to be advertised as a great devotee. So he left immediately and he reached Jagannath Puri. But unfortunately for Madhavendra Puri, the news had already reached Jagannath Puri and everyone thronged to him, worshipping him and touching his lotus feet and congratulating him. Oh, Sripad Madhavendra Puri, you're such a great devotee that Krishna has stolen this condensed milk for you, and we have heard it. So Srila Prabhupada indicates here that Madhavendra Puri was such a great devotee that Krishna had stolen the condensed milk for him. So the main point is here is that a devotee, even if he does not know and does not want to advertise, which he doesn't really want to do anyway, a great devotee doesn't do that, Krishna advertises him. And Krishna advertises how great a devotee is without the devotee even knowing, without the devotee intending to be known as a great devotee. So in this way, we can see that Krishna wants to see that the devotee should be the greatest personalities. So therefore, during that nice interaction between Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Rai, Lord Chaitanya asked Ramananda Rai one of those questions, who is the most famous person? And Ramananda Rai immediately replied, the most famous person or persons who are known as great devotees of the Lord. They are the most famous persons. Now, in another place, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Madhya Lila, there's one beautiful verse in the 17th chapter, and it goes like Dharma Stapana hetu sadura vyavahara puri gosanira yehi acharana sehi dharmasara. So Srila Prabhupada in the translation helps us understand that the behavior of a devotee establishes the true purpose of religious principles. And specifically, Krishnadas Kaviraj says, Puri Gosanira. And that indicates, Prabhupada says, that the behavior of Sripad Madhavendra Puri Goswami is the essence of such religious principles. Now, it is not just, you could say, in one sense, knowing the scripture. So, what does indicate here? Dharma stapana hetu, sadhura vyavahara means that a true devotee establishes a religious principle simply by his behavior. So when one reads the books, one sees the living book in the form of a devotee, And the specific example that is singled out for this particular verse is Sripad Madhavendra Puri. Now, Srila Prabhupada used to quote Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Narottam Das Thakur's commentary in his purport in relation to this verse. We used to say that Narottam Das Thakur used to say, Shastra Sadhu Guru Vakya Cheteti Kariya Akya, that one should accept as one's guide the words of the sadhus, the words of the Shastra, the scripture, and the words of the Guru. Now, sadhus would indicate even great personalities like Lord Chaitanya, the Shastra, as we know, which are the revealed scriptures, and the spiritual master, who is one who confirms how to live the revealed scriptures as he is living it and giving instructions and guidance to his disciples to live according to the scriptures. And Srila Prabhupada also used to quote Mahajana Ekata Sapanta, that and even these great devotees who are called Mahajans, they can also show us the way of Dharma Stapana Hetu, Sadhura Vyavahara, that the behavior of a devotee is actually the main criteria for all other behavior, for all other devotees. And the principal personality that is the role model practically for Srila Ishvara Puri and for Lord Chaitanya is Sripad Madhavendra Puri. Now, I have read for one verse here, which is text number 34. And this particular verse is also quoted again in the Madhya Leela in chapter 4, text 197. So this particular verse governed the consciousness of Sripad Madhavendra Puri when he was leaving this world and returning back to Goloka Vrindavan. And it's a very intimate verse. It may sound, like it may sound like, like a young girl's words for like a young lover. It is like that, but this should not be mistaken as like a young girl word for a lover in the material world. So I'm just going to read that beautiful verse again. Ahidina dayadranata he maturanata kada valokshyase hridayam tvad alokakataram dahita vriram yati kim karyomyaham. It's such a beautiful thing that practically that the meaning of this verse can only be understood by three persons. But yet it is given to us here. And those three persons are, Sripad Madhavendra Puri, who just spoke this verse during his passing away. And Srimati Radharani, who was the originator of this verse, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is in the mood of Radharani's, feeling Radharani's love for Krishna. So it's a very exalted verse. And the translation is actually most beautiful also. And really speaking, this verse can only be understood by those who are completely free from the bodily conception of life. So it's that exalted. And the translation is, O my Lord, O most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O most beloved one, what shall I do now? So the verse is in a very lamentable consciousness, very lamentable consciousness. Now, we have all may have heard of a precious jewel called Kaustuba money. Kaustuba money is the best of all valuable jewels. And therefore, this particular verse is similarly considered as the best poems dealing with the highest features of the mellows of devotional service. And therefore, it is actually spoken initially in his original way by Srimati Radharani herself when Krishna was going to Mathura. And therefore, by Srimati Radharani's mercy, these words are manifest in a poetic form from the lotus mouth of Sripad Madhavendra Puri. And Sripad Madhavendra Puri, he recited this verse repeatedly when he was leaving this world. And therefore he attained the ultimate goal of his life, from Chaitanya Leela back to Krishna Leela. So I'm going to explain shortly about Sripad Madhavendra Puri's position, in Krishna Leela. In other words, this particular verse explains that when Sri Krishna left Vrindavan and sort of accepted the kingdom of Mathura after, dealing with Kamsa, then Srimati Radharani, out of her ecstatic feelings, of separation from Krishna, expressed in this also verse how Krishna can be loved in separation. So therefore, devotional service in separation is the highest. So for us, we do not feel separation in a sense, although feelings may be there. But our feelings of separation only come when we just continue to serve in separation. Just like all of us, to varying degrees and depths within our hearts, we definitely have some sense of feelings of separation.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj, there is no sound.
Haribol?
Yes, it's back, Maharaj.
Somebody is speaking. Can I continue?
Yes, Maharaj. For a few seconds, there was no sound from your side. Now it's good.
Oh, the internet maybe, the connection.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, Maharaj.
Sorry. So I'll just repeat. All of us, at least in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, or those who may have heard of Srila Prabhupada and probably connected to ISKCON indirectly, we have feelings for Srila Prabhupada, although we may not have met him. But our feelings of separation are meeting Srila Prabhupada in serving in separation. We do service. So engagement in devotional service makes us increase our feelings of separation, within the disciplic succession. And it comes to the point of ecstatic feelings of separations from Radha and Krishna. So according to this particular conception, you could say in one sense. Um, mm, the devotee always feels oneself, you could say in one sense, very fallen. And sometimes a devotee may feel even neglected by Krishna, just as Srimati Radharani feels neglected by Krishna in this particular verse. It's not that Krishna purposely neglects, but that neglect of Krishna is to increase our affection and attachment for Krishna. So therefore the Lord has been addressed by Sripad Madhavendra Puri as Dina Dayadranata, that I am very poor, I'm very fallen, I'm very frail, and therefore possibly I'm neglected by you. Dina Dayadranata. And that's how Madhavendra Puri felt. So we could say, although Madhavendra Puri, from the other devotees' point of view, is the greatest of devotees, but still personally he felt that I am unworthy, but still you are my Lord, you are my Lord, you are my Nanda. Now we're coming to a very important aspect of Sripad Madhavendra Puri's inner identity in Krishna Lila, and then in relation to ourselves, Srila Prabhupada, and so forth. Are we okay so far, or is it too much philosophy? Can I move along?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. So there's another beautiful verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila in chapter 9, in text number 10 and 11. And this aptly describes Sripad Madhavendra Puri. And the verse is so beautiful. Jaya Shri Madhavendra Puri. No. Jaya Shri Madhava Puri. Krishna Prema Pura. Bhakti Kalpata Rura Tenho. Pratama Ankura. And this Shri Madhava Puri is actually Madhavendra Puri, is also known like that as Madhava Puri. And Krishna Prema Pura indicates that Madhavendra Puri is a storehouse of love of Godhead. Why? Because he is the desire tree, Bhakti Kalpat Ru. He is the desire tree of devotional service. And what does this mean? Because he is the desire tree of devotional service, it is in Madhavendra Puri that the first seed of, you could say, Radha Krishna Bhav or Radha Krishna ecstasy has been planted within our disciplic succession in the Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. And this seed of devotional service in conjugal love, which was planted by Sripad Madhavendra Puri within our disciplic succession, it next fruitified in the form of Srila Ishvara Puri. And then, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted Srila Ishvara Puri as his spiritual master, then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself became the gardener of this kripa of devotional service. And therefore, it is celebrated that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the main trunk of the tree of devotional service, which was originally. Sometimes my connection may go a little low. I'm sorry. Is it okay now?
Yes.
Haribol?
Yes, Maharaj, it's good. It's good. We can hear it clearly. It's good.
So therefore, I'll just repeat that. Sripad Madhavendra Puri is the desire tree of devotional service, and therefore he planted the seed of devotional service into our disciplic succession, especially Radha Krishna Bhav or Radha Krishna ecstasy. And that seed of devotional service next fruitified in the form of Srila Ishvara Puri, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted Srila Ishvara Puri as his spiritual master and became the gardener himself. And therefore Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is celebrated as the main trunk of the tree of devotional service. So in a sense, you could say that Sripad Madhavendra Puri was the first person in our disciplic succession to sort of give us and also exhibit, symptoms of love of Godhead. And therefore he began and spoke this nice poem, beginning with the words, Ahidina Dayadranata, O supremely merciful personality of Godhead. And therefore, in that particular poem, uttered from his lotus mouth repeatedly when he was leaving this world, the seed of Lord Chaitanya's cultivation of love of Godhead appeared. So, just to conclude this particular part, Madhavendra Puri sowed the seed of ecstatic love for Krishna within this world and then he departed. Ishvara Puri grew that seed, watered it, nurtured it, and this also grew into the great tree in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the disciple of Ishvara Puri. Okay, so now I want to express a little bit more about Sripad Madhavendra Puri's, you could say, inner identity in Krishna Leela and how that has been expressed here in Chaitanya Leela, which I've already discussed to a great extent. Srila Prabhupada interestingly says in the 5th canto, where was that? Yes, in the 9th chapter in the 5th canto in the 4th verse. Srila Prabhupada gives a brief there that Srila Madhavendra Puri, he expressed a desire to sit somewhere beneath a tree and continue the chanting and just chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now, we are sort of aware that Radha and Krishna are one supreme soul in two forms for the sake of pleasure. That means as much as you cannot separate, heat and light from fire, similarly you cannot separate Radha from Krishna. And as much as you cannot separate the sun's rays or the sunlight from the sun, you cannot separate Radha from Krishna. So every morning we sing about this intimate servant that we are connected to in disciplic succession, to Radha and Krishna. And it's beautiful. Nikunjayuno Rati Keli Sidhai Yayalubir Yuktir Apeksaniya Tatrati Dakshat Attivallabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam. So in the mornings, we sing this during Mangal Arati from the Shishi Guruva Ast prayers, which begins with the verses Samsara Davana Lida Loka. So this is a very interesting situation because we should not sing these prayers in the morning just as a matter of routine and attending Mangal Arati. It's actually very deep. And well, I'm sure most of you do know the meaning of this verse where it indicates that the spiritual master is very dear because the spiritual master is expert in assisting the gopis. This verse is like that in the morning. Who at different times they make very beautiful arrangements for Radha and Krishna to meet in their conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. Within the groves of Vrindavan. And I offer my most humble obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. We sing this every morning. And it's so beautiful that that we can understand the status of the spiritual master. When we say spiritual master, it indicates our Shiksha Gurus and the disciplic succession themselves, all the way to the Panchatattva and thereafter to Radha and Krishna. It indicates like that. So, so when we say Nikunja, so Kunja means groves, and the groves in Vraj Mandala or Vrindavan indicates trees. So trees means Kalpavriksha trees. And Kalpavriksha trees indicate that they have a sense of consciousness of even bowing down, even bowing down. Now, this word, Nikunja no Rati Kelly Sidhai. So I'll give you one example of such a place, and some of you may have been there. It's in Vrindavan. There's a place called Seva Kunj. Beautiful place. Seva Kunj. And nobody's allowed there in the evening and night. So Nikunja, Seva Kunj, Nikunja. So I've been there many times, and if some of you have been there, you will find that in Seva Kunj in Vrindavan, you get these beautiful trees which are not high at all. They're actually small, and they do not grow their branches upwards. The kunjas or the kalpavriksha trees, they're always bent. And in the bending situation of the trees and the branches themselves, they form like a nice kunj, now you call it, like a cave inside. Cave inside. So I'm just giving you a type of example from these beautiful verses that we sing in the morning. Nikunja yuno ratikali sidhai. Now, one who is sort of, you could say in one sense, has some realization of Radha Krishna Leela, knows that Radha and Krishna are one supreme soul in two forms for the sake of pleasure or rasa. Now, we cannot really understand that because we cannot be Krishna and neither can we become Radharani. There's only one Krishna and one Radharani. So it is not really something that we can discuss that is based on philosophy or logic or argument or debate or advertisement. We cannot really do that. Yeah. However, one thing we can understand that when Radha and Krishna, who are two, you could say, become one in their pleasure, it is within one of these nikunjas, which is within one of these groves in the forests of Vrindavan. So now I will ask a question and then I will answer it myself to make this a little bit more interesting for our discussion today. Now, within such a kunj, like Seva Kunj, where these trees, they, with the branches bow down, and then they make a sort of an enclave, a cave. Within the kunj, it is becoming so, you could say in one sense, dense. The branches of the trees, they intertwine themselves. And when the branches of these trees intertwine themselves, automatically the branch with its flowers on its top is now inside the kunj. In other words, when the branch bends in such a way, you'll only see the bottom part of the branches, but not on the top of the branches, and it goes into the kunj. And those flowers automatically are now not up, they are now down because they are inside the kunj and they fall. So when they fall inside the kunj, it you could say intensifies or makes the fragrance of the flowers more dense, and it becomes a flower bed, like a carpet in a small room, flower bed. Radha and Krishna are already in there. They are already in there. But nobody can see from outside. So therefore, we cannot really explain what is happening. Nobody can see from outside. Not even the sun, not even in the moon. Nothing can enter, not even air can enter. Not even the moonlight or moonshine, cooling moon's rays can enter. Nothing can enter. But there's only one witness to Radha and Krishna being together. There's only one witness and no one else. If somebody wants to unmute and tell us who is that witness, please unmute and tell us.
The tree itself, Maharaj.
Who said that?
This is Janvi Priya from Surat, Maharaj.
Yes, Janavi Priya, wonderful. The tree itself. And that is the form of Sripad Madhavendra Puri. Sripad Madhavendra Puri is the root, as it's described in this verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sripad Madhavendra Puri is the Bhakti Kalpataru. It's a beautiful verse. I'm going to read it again. It's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila chapter 9, text number 10. Jaya Shri Madhava Puri Krishna Prema Pura Bhakti Kalpatarura Tenho Pratama Ankura. So that is that personality. That Sripad Madhavendra Puri is the desired tree of devotional service. So because Sripad Madhavendra Puri is the desired tree of devotional service, so that indicates that Sripad Madhavendra Puri is the root of all desired trees in Goloka Vrindavan. And therefore Sripad Madhavendra Puri knows every desire of Radha and Krishna. And therefore Sripad Madhavendra Puri in the form of the Kalpavriksha tree and trees, because he is the root of every tree, witnesses, and no one else witnesses the intimacy of Radha's and Krishna's love for each other, which is not available to anyone else except for two other persons. That is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Radha Rani herself. Krishna himself partially knows, whereas Sripad Madhavendra Puri is witnessing everything in the form of the Kalpavriksha tree. Now don't desire to become a Kalpavriksha tree, because that is Madhavendra Puri. We cannot become him. He has the sole attitude and nature of being that. Okay. I'm not sure how I should continue, but I wanted to continue to conclude after we may take some, you could say, questions or comments from devotees. Then I can comment and continue in terms of Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON in relation to Sripad Madhavendra Puri, Ishvara Puri, and Lord Chaitanya. So let us take some comments and questions now. You can come on to the screen and you raise your hand and you unmute, and then you can ask your question or you can offer us a comment. Either way. We do have time. I've left sufficient time for today. And then we'll conclude towards the end. I'll need about 5 or 10 minutes or so at the end to nicely conclude everything in relation to Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON. Okay, anyone? I guess we maximize our participants. Nobody else is allowed to enter in because it's maximum 100. Anyone? Questions and answers? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Please come onto the screen. It's been nice for me to see you. Get your darshan and have a feeling of what your question is about, besides the words of the question themselves. Where are you?
Yes, Maharaj, Dandavad Pranam. Maharaj, I'm from Surat. I just
Jahnavi,
wanted to tell you that
Jahnavi
yes,
Priya.
yes, Maharaj. Yes,
Yes.
Maharaj.
Tell us, Jahnavi Priya, your question or comment.
I always wondered how a tree can be an acharya and how we can understand that though it's a spiritual nature, anything can happen. But from my small mind, I couldn't understand that. And today you explained it so nicely that how Madhavendra Puri is a kalpa vriksha and you don't even think about to become a kalpa vriksha because that place is already acquired by Madhavendra Puri and
But you
how
can become a
he can become.
nice, but you can become a servant of Madhavendra Puri. You can become
Yes,
another
yes.
Kalpa Vriksha next to him and serve him. But it's based on
Yes.
Madhavendra Puri's mercy.
So nice. I'm so happy because it was kind of a question and mystery in my mind. And I was kind of underestimating the Kalpa Vriksha, and you cleared it so sweetly today.
Welcome, Janvi Priya. All right, let's move along with somebody else asking another question or comment. Raise your hand. It would be nice if we can take more from devotees. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's a beautiful subject. It's a thoughtful subject. It's something that we need to digest as we go along. So I see
Hare
Avesh,
Krishna,
Rupa, and Nitya Kishori.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Please
You,
kindly accept our humble obeisances, Maharaj.
at mine
First of
voice, Prabhupada.
Jai
Tell us.
Maharaj. First of all, I would like to beg for forgiveness because we joined a bit late and we could not join because
That's all right. That's all
the
right.
class.
Keep telling the question.
Yes,
That's okay. Go ahead.
just one question is coming in our mind. Madhavendra Puri achieved such a glorious position. So what was his qualification
What was Madhavendra Puri's qualification?
so that he could achieve this position of being the Kalpa Vriksha?
Oh, like that. That's the question.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank
Okay. Um, all right. Um, I have to correct your question. Is that all right? You don't mind?
you. Of course, Maharaj. Of course, please.
Um, Madhavendra Puri did not achieve this exalted personalities of being the root of all Kalpavriksha trees.
Mm.
He did not achieve that. Madhavendra Puri is naturally that eternally.
Mm.
Are we okay? In Krishna
Yes,
Lila.
yes, Maharaj.
And in Chaitanya Lila, Madhavendra, that root of all Kalpavriksha trees, which is the root of all devotional service, which is described in the verse I have quoted from Chaitanya Charitamrita, appeared in the form of Shripad Madhavendra Puri
Okay.
to introduce to us Radha Krishna Lila and Radha Krishna Bhav
Okay.
within our disciplic succession. So it's not that Madhavendra Puri engaged in sadhana bhakti or devotional service to become a Kalpavriksha tree. Madhavendra Puri is originally that.
Okay. Okay. This was the confusion actually.
And
Yes.
then he descended
Okay.
into Chaitanya Leela as the Param Guru of
Okay.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That means the grandfather, spiritual master. Because Madhavendra Puri's disciple, Ishvara Puri, is the guru of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Prabhu.
So therefore, Madhavendra Puri is the Param Guru of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Is that all right?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Another comment or question from anyone? Nice questions. We'd like to take more questions if we can, would be wonderful. But that's why I gave it an hour and a half so that we don't run out of time. for chanting Gaura Leela.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances, Maharaj.
Krishna Prema Pradayaka Prabhu Ki Jai, all the way from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Tell us.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I have two questions. The first
Let's
question
take
is...
one first, yes.
Okay, Maharaj. The first question I would like to ask is, I saw that there is the end name, like a surname, that Madhavendra Puri and Ishwara Puri. Like, I don't really understand why they have such names behind. Is there like a title for them, like how we have like Prabhupada, something like that?
Yes, the word Puri is like a particular title given to devotees in renounced order of life, like sannyasis. Even in our Gaudiya Vaishnava line, we have, the word Puri given to sannyasis names, even within ISKCON. Like that. Let me think of somebody now. Can't think of a sannyasi name now, but it's like it's not like a das or dasi. It's not given to everyone. It's given specifically as a name, as part of the name of a sannyasi. Is that all right?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
One day maybe one day you should decide to get that. Like sannyas. Would be nice. You're not married.
Nice. No, Maharaj, I'm not married, Maharaj. By your mercy.
Well, okay. All right. What's your second
What is the
question?
form of Sripad Ishwara Puri in Krishna Leela? Maybe just a brief.
Ishwara Puri.
Yes, Ishwara Puri.
Yeah. I want to, I'll have to reference that again. I'm not sure if it's Sandipani Muni or, I'll have to reference it, right?
Okay.
Right now it's not, it's there, but it's not coming into my consciousness. I'll have to reference it. So we can take another question while I try to reference it if I can, and then we'll take it from there. Is that all right? Is there another question that's coming up?
No, Maharaj, that's all, Maharaj. Thank you so much, Maharaj. I'm very happy to see you, Maharaj.
You're welcome. Now, who's the next person? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Does anyone in the audience know who is Ishwara Puri? I can't get the reference offhand right now, but it'd be nice to know. It's inside, yes, but it's just not coming for now. Anyone can reference us for that?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Prabhu Samba raised hand for question maybe. Samba Prabhu.
Samba, can you
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Come onto the screen?
Yes, Maharaj.
Where are you? Okay, I see you. Nice and clear.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Tell us.
Well, I had one. I wanted you to elaborate on, like Madhavendra Puri, he had Ishwar Puri as his disciple, and Ramachandra Puri also was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri. And Ishwara Puri served Madhavendra Puri very faithfully, and he was very dedicated. And he received as a great opportunity to have Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as his disciple, as a result of serving with full dedication. And on the
Yes.
other hand, we have Ramachandra Puri, who offended Madhavendra Puri.
Yes.
Yeah. So could you elaborate on these two type of disciple? Yes, Maharaj.
Yes. When Madhavendra Puri was in this last stage of his life, which is given in the chapter that I recited in the beginning, Ishvara Puri came to see him. And Madhavendra Puri was chanting the holy name of Krishna at the same time, and sometimes he would cry, "No, oh my Lord, I did not get shelter of you at Mathura." So Madhavendra Puri, while he was crying, Ramachandra Puri was so foolish that he fearlessly dared to instruct Madhavendra Puri. And he said something like, you know, if you are in transcendental bliss, then why are you crying? You should not be lamenting. So and then he added that you should remember Brahman. So so Srila Prabhupada says, in relation to that somewhat, that not knowing why Madhavendra Puri was crying, Ramachandra Puri tried to advise him. And Srila Prabhupada said that it is a great offense for a disciple to actually try to instruct his or her his spiritual master. So when Madhavendra Puri heard this, he became so angry, and he practically said to Ramachandra Puri, "You sinful rascal." So Ramachandra Puri, he could not understand that Madhavendra Puri was feeling transcendental separation. He decoded it as like a materialistic thing to be lamenting. He did not know that it was the highest stage of ecstatic love for Krishna. That means crying in separation that one. So this is not ordinary material lamentation. So therefore, Ramachandra Puri was not sufficiently real expert to understand, and therefore he felt the great offense. So this is a lesson for us. You could say, in one sense, either played by the part of Madhavendra Puri. So Madhavendra Puri, you could say, was like, his presence was like in the way, or like an obstacle, or no, Ramachandra Puri's, you could say, presence was in the way as an obstacle to Madhavendra Puri's meditation on Krishna. So therefore he said, "You rascal, get away from here." And also, Ramachandra's Puri had tendencies for impersonalism, which was an obstacle to his own spiritual advancement. So therefore, Madhavendra Puri severely chastised him to purify him. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada says in that particular purport that such a reprimand, from the spiritual master is very good for the betterment of the disciple. Very good for the betterment of the disciple. So we should be very careful, because Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vigyaya na Bhujaya. That one should be very careful that even if one is like learned in the scriptures, still one cannot understand the activities or the exalted nature of a Vaishnava. Therefore, one should be careful of how to deal with Vaishnavas, otherwise you will misunderstand and offend them. So that's the lesson to be learned. Whereas opposed to that, positively, is that you could say in one sense, Ishvara Puri, got all the blessings of his spiritual master, Shripad Madhavendra Puri. Now, His Holiness Giriraj Swami, he quotes one one situation with Srila Prabhupada in a similar way. Like that. And he was mentioning that Srila Prabhupada had one disciple named Aravinda. And Aravinda was personally serving Srila Prabhupada for some time. And, you know, in a sense, Srila Prabhupada never rejected anyone. So eventually, Aravinda, I think, you know, Giriraj Swami was saying that he got too close to Srila Prabhupada, and he maybe mistook him for an ordinary personality and started committing offenses. So after being Srila Prabhupada's personal servant, eventually he left. So sometime later, another devotee met Aravinda and told him that, you know, Srila Prabhupada was in the city, wherever he was. And he encouraged Aravinda, why don't you come and meet Srila Prabhupada? So Aravinda came and he told Srila Prabhupada, of course he wasn't really surrendered still, you know, and he told Srila Prabhupada that something like, you know, Krishna consciousness never really worked for me. So therefore I left. So indirectly, actually, he was criticizing the process of Krishna consciousness, and also was criticizing that Prabhupada gave us the process of Krishna consciousness. So then Srila Prabhupada replied something to the effect that, good, and I'm glad you left, because now I don't have to look at your face anymore. So, you know, it's in the same way that Madhavendra Puri told, you know, Ramachandra Puri, you know, these words are there. Mora mukka na ekabitui. Don't show your face to me. Anyway, so it's very similar to Srila Prabhupada's words to Aravinda. But, you know, that was like a special thing in relation to Aravinda. In general, Srila Prabhupada, you know, he did not really reject anyone in general.
Yes.
And if he rejected someone, it's for the benefit to come back in a better way to serve in the proper mood and consciousness. In that sense. Is that all right?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
All
It's
right.
very clear. Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Thank you for your nice explanation.
Any other questions or comments? And we have about 20 minutes, I think. 15 minutes or so. So we can take one more comment and question, and then we can take it from there. Anyone? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I have this book, Sri Gaura Ganodesha
Yes,
Deepika,
that's good.
which says
It
that
says something, yeah, it's in that book. It says something about Ishvara Puri.
it says that Sandipani Muni was Keshava Bharati in.
And yes, that's
Yeah,
correct. And
yeah. It's not
in
Ishvara Puri who was Sandipani Muni, but Keshav
very
Bharati
good,
was Sandipani Muni.
Keshava Bharati, yes.
Yes, but
It
I'm
was not
trying to find out where they have written for the Ishvara Puri. I'm trying to find out.
nice. Thank you very much. I'm trying to also look. I
Yeah.
can't seem to locate it. I mean, it's there somewhere in my consciousness, but it's not coming out. Just trying to.
This is why we are getting some chance to serve.
Okay, wonderful. But
Thank you.
tomorrow I'm continuing, so maybe I'll look at my other notes and continue. And we'll have to look at that. But it's somewhere. It's somewhere.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Okay.
Okay. Any other comments or questions, or should I sort of continue to conclude our discussions for today? Take one more question or comment.
Hi, Krishna Maharaj.
Uh, please come onto the screen.
This is Kevala Bhakti from Toronto.
Kevala Bhakti, how are you? Tell us.
Hi, Krishna Maharaj. My obeisance is Glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Glory to Prabhupada.
Maharaj, I have kind of a simple question. First of all, thank you for this wonderful class. You mentioned that, Madhavendra Puri, well, we know the Leela, that he desired that sweet rice. We also know that in Kali Yuga, offenses in the mind are not really, they don't count. So why was he so concerned about this thought that he had about desiring the sweet rice of the Lord?
Why was he so? Just repeat that again.
Why was he so concerned that he had this desire in his mind to taste the sweet rice if offenses in the mind don't really count in Kali Yuga?
Madhavendra Puri's desire to taste the sweet rice is coming from where? You have some reference to that desire?
I don't.
Yeah, so maybe we should clarify that reference whether he actually desired. I'm not sure yet. There's a pastime in the whole thing in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So if you can reference that when he desired and why, or if he did, then we can take your question forward.
Okay.
See? But however, I'll answer your question in another way. And that is that to have such desires not only in the mind, but to execute them, in other words, desiring Mahaprasad, right? Is that what you are indicating?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes. So let's take ourselves away from the exalted consciousness of Madhavendra Puri and see ourselves for what it is practically in our lives. I also desire Mahaprasad. In fact, I desired Mahaprasad today. I'm right here at the Krishna Balaram temple in Mauritius. And I told the devotee, please bring me some Mahaprasad. So your question is not the nature of being offensive. Your question is of the nature of desiring an activity in Krishna consciousness, which means honoring Mahaprasad, which is fine. Which is fine. So it's not like you're referencing in that in the Kali Yuga that you know if you desire something in the mind, it's an offense. This desire in the mind is not in relation to committing an offense in the mind. It's a Krishna conscious desire, which is nice. Whether Madhavendra Puri desired that or not, it's not in question. But desiring to honor Mahaprasad is wonderful. Okay. Is that okay? Kevala Bhakti?
Yes, Maharaj. That's great. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you for your nice question. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. This is again Avesh Rupdas.
Okay, Avesh Rup, tell us your question.
Maharaj, years ago, I heard one class from His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj describing the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. And he was also describing the appearance of how Gopinath became Kirchor Gopinath. And I've kind of forgotten a bit. Maharaj talk about a certain prayer that only Madhavendra Puri, Krishna, and Radharani is it is known of only in these three people.
Yes.
So can you please elaborate on that, please?
Yes, I elaborated extensively on that. It's that verse that we discussed. And you want me to say it again? I'll say it again. Okay. Where were we? Okay. This is that prayer that Madhavendra Puri repeatedly, chanted at the time of his passing. You can find it in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, chapter 4, text 197. Aidina Dayadranata he Maturanata Kadavalokshase Hridayam Tvad Aloka Kataram Dayita Briram Yati Kim Karomyaham. And the translation is, O my Lord, O most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O most beloved one, what shall I do now? This is the prayer that I discussed extensively and quoted a few times in my class today. Is that all right?
Yes, Maharaj, perfectly. Thank you very much.
Okay, good. All right.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
And before I take the next question, I do have some notes here. I'm just looking if I can find it. Um, okay. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Adi Lila chapter 9, text 13 to 15, if you want to note that down for the questions, you can ask the question. Haribol, somebody should mute. There's some background sound. Haribol, somebody should mute. Okay. So I have some notes with me. I just found them. This is Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila chapter 9, uh, text number 13 to 15. And in the purport, let me get to it slowly. In the purport, it says, let me see. Yeah. In the Gaura Ganada's Dipika 118 state that Paramananda Puri was Uddhava. So I have that. And it says Keshava Bharati was Sandipani Muni. Is Sandipani Muni. And it also says Keshava Bharati is also an incarnation of Krura. Let's see. Now, I'm trying to get to Ishvara Puri. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. No, I don't seem to be getting it now, but it may be in some other notes. I'll have to get to you of that tomorrow when we start our class again at 5:30. So let's keep that aside. Now let's take that last question from this devotee. One devotee had a question. Who are you? Please come online. Please come online. Where are you?
Maharaj, I am online. I'm Malati Dasi.
Okay, Malati, I see you. Tell us.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Maharaj,
It's a
whenever, always Srila Prabhupada, always dear dear. Whenever I hear such lectures which are beyond my thoughts, and it just goes
which are
above beyond my thoughts, beyond my thoughts, and so
okay, go ahead.
I feel so insignificant that I feel I have to take so many lifetimes to achieve this love for Radha and Krishna and for Guru Maharaj actually. So a type of discouragement comes in my heart, and that is a type of lamentation. So lamentation is not good, as we see. So Maharaj, how can we take this? How can we understand this?
Well, there's a nice comment from Jagannath Mishra Prabhu. Jagannath Mishra Prabhu, can you come on to the answers Malati's comment or question? Where are you? Jagannath Mishra Prabhu is also near Toronto, so I think he's at work, but he's just listening in. I'm not sure. Hare Krishna, Jagannath Mishra Prabhu. Okay. Are you there? So my internet connection is a little unstable.
Sorry,
We'll have
Maharaj.
to come back.
I was
Can
muted.
you hear me now?
Yes, Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Now you made a beautiful comment in relation to Malati's query. What did you say when you typed it in?
Oh, I was just getting the reference, Maharaj, in reference to Keval Bhakti's question about the thought of stealing the sweet rice by Madhavendra Puri. So I was looking at the Chaitanya Charitamrita to see if there was a reference as to that pastime where he thought of taking the sweet rice before it was offered to deity. So I was able to get from the Madhya Lila.
So can you read it for us? Can you read it for us?
Sure, Maharaj, if you'd like me to read it. It's just from
It's wonderful, wonderful discussion.
It's from Madhya Lila, chapter 4, text 121. Madhavendra Puri became greatly ashamed when he desired to taste.
Read it.
He became greatly ashamed when he desired to taste sweet rice, and immediately began to think of Lord Vishnu. While he was thus thinking of Lord Vishnu, the offering was completed and the arti ceremony began. And there's no purport to that verse.
Okay, wonderful, Kevala Bhakti, from your side that you referenced that for us. However, your question is not on the basis of feeling offensive in those thoughts. It's natural in Krishna consciousness. And Madhavendra Puri really wanted to associate with, Shirachor Gopinath, associate with Gopinath, who became Shirachor because he desired that. So Krishna automatically changed his name or added to his name by the desire of Madhavendra Puri. He became Shirachor Gopinath, which is our deity is actually in Toronto. So without the desire of Madhavendra Puri, we can't just only worship Gopinath. Now we're worshipping Shirachor Gopinath because of Madhavendra Puri's desire. Is that okay, Kevala Bhakti?
Yes, thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Jagannatha Mishra Prabhu. I also found a verse 3 verses later that said something similar, but your answer addresses that perfectly, Maharaj. Thank you. Very sweet.
Perfect. So now back to Malati. Malati, you with us, right?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes. Now, Malati, you have to listen very carefully. We are reading from the scriptures. Yes or no?
Yes, Maharaj.
So, if reading from the scriptures makes us insignificant, is it a positive thing? Yes or no?
Yes, Maharaj.
Good. The next question. If reading from the scriptures makes us insignificant, is it a discouragement or an encouragement?
I felt discouraged, Maharaj. Sorry.
No, you answer my question.
It's an encouragement, Guru.
Yes. So you are creating a situation in your consciousness that doesn't exist. It's not there. It's not a discouragement, it's an encouragement. See, even I am quite amazed that I'm allowed to discuss, Sripad Madhavendra Puri has disappeared and some his pastimes, after reading and doing some research and so forth like that from Prabhupada's books. I'm quite amazed at this. And if you are feeling insignificant, I'm not sure where I am behind you. And maybe the insignificant of the insignificant. That's what happens to us when we read the scriptures and see the greatness and exaltedness of great personalities like Sri Prabhupada. Malati, is that all right?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right, I believe we should conclude now. Is that okay with everyone? Rasika Sindhu Prabhu?
Yes, Maharaj, Hare Krishna. Yes.
All right, we should conclude and then we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. It seems like our attendance has maximized even today, so we should need to open it up for more than 100 if we can. Is all
Yes,
that
Maharaj.
okay, Rasika, for tomorrow?
Yes, Maharaj.
All right. Now, Srila Prabhupada's desired tree is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. In fact, Srila Prabhupada said that our ISKCON is one of the branches of the Chaitanya tree. And we can safely conclude that the greatest branch of the Chaitanya tree on this, at least within our relative sphere of even including our limitations on this particular planet, that the greatest branch of the Chaitanya tree is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which is formed by Srila Prabhupada, and he stands as the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So what does that indicate for us? It indicates that it sort of indicates that we should, no matter how difficult, no matter how challenging, we should try to maintain our connection with Srila Prabhupada's body, which is the desired tree of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Srila Prabhupada did say that ISKCON is my body, and the BBT is my heart, and the books that are distributed is my blood. I'm adding a third one, which I heard from His Holiness Kirat Swami. So therefore, the desired tree of ISKCON, as Srila Prabhupada said, is connected to the Chaitanya tree. And when you're connected to the Chaitanya tree, to the desired tree of ISKCON, as one of the branches of the Chaitanya tree, then we are nicely connected to go back home, back to Goloka Vrindavan. Okay. We thank you all for allowing me to be in your nice company today. And we look forward to your association tomorrow again, Mauritian time, 5 p.m., 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. to continue our series of Gaur Leela Utsav. Thank you very much. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo
नमो नमः
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu
प्रभु
Nityananda
नित्यानंद
Shri Advaita
श्री अद्वैत
Gadadhara
गदाधर
Sri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
भक्त वृंदा
Hare Krishna
कृष्ण
Krishna
कृष्ण
Krishna
कृष्ण
Hare Hare Hare
हरे
Rama
राम
Hare Rama
हरे राम
Rama Rama Hare Hare
हरे हरे
Srila Prabhupada ki Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol
So
Hare Krishna.
we thank Maharaj a lot for his very nice lecture, in-depth lecture about Srila Madhavendra Puri. And we are inviting devotees for tomorrow, the session. The topic for tomorrow is Shri Gadadhar Pandit and Shri Srivasa Thakur in relationship to Srila Prabhupada. And we will also try to have a connection with Facebook and YouTube for tomorrow, because we are already packed up today, all time 100 participants.
And we'd also like to thank our host. Can you come onto the screen? Let them get your darshan. Haribol.
Okay, Hare Krishna. One second.
Where are you?
I'm right here, Maharaj.
Nice.
Hare
So
Krishna,
Rasika
Maharaj.
Prabhu, thank you very much for being a wonderful host today. As
Thank
well
you,
as we'd like to
Maharaj.
thank your backup, Anil Prabhu,
Yes.
to allow us for these next 2 days coming also. Okay.
Thank you again, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Vaishnava,